Wheel of Genre. This time we are taking listener questions. Actually, we've accumulated quite a number of comments on our videos that are up on YouTube and some clips on TikTok. Less so on Spotify, but people are always welcome to use that too to leave comments, questions, and stuff. But Bob, what's the first one we got?
All right, Zach, we got I think this is a great question, and I'm really interested in it. It was when we did The Riders of the Purple Wage by Philip Jose Farmer, and we said, oh, not for us. But this listener, I think, had a really very good point. They said, I view this Philip Jose Farmer story as a whole giant love and play with words. If you don't like it, you're kind of ... I don't know ... not playful at all. Now, I don't think we need to talk too much about whether we like this story or not. Probably deserves another chance. But Zach, I am super interested in what a book says about someone. Does it say that we are not fun people for not liking this fun book?
That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know, Bob. I just feel like the book may have been playful, but that doesn't necessarily make it fun. And I think there's a big difference in the kind of books that are fun and the kind of books that are playful. And there's only a small overlap in that Venn diagram.
Oh, a Venn diagram. I think fun and playful go hand in hand, though. I wonder if we weren't in the playful mood. We didn't want that kind of fun at the time. But I still think, why is their personality, why does it match the book? If we are not playful, if we are not fun, are we not ready for the fun? Are we not ready for the playfulness? Do we just not get it?
I don't know. I feel like I have to push back against the idea of the reader's personality dictating their ability to enjoy that one aspect of a book. If I'm not a serious, hardened individual, am I not going to be able to enjoy Hemingway?
Okay, Zach. Well, I'm going to throw a question back at you. I want to think about this question, but I want to give you some examples too. Here's the big question is, have you ever gone to someone's house and looked at their bookshelf and then thought, ooh, everybody does it. Don't lie and say you wouldn't do that. Everybody does it. But
like a visceral cringe response to seeing someone else's inner world for the first time?
Oh, a dark inner world. I feel like in school, especially when you would go to a party, if you went to someone's house and you went to their bookshelf, the first thing people would do is go to their bookshelf and no one would necessarily say anything except, have you really read this, I suppose? But then everyone always walks away with the judgment of, oh, I know they're that kind of person. Is that a fair judgment call? Is that people being biased walking into their perfectly fine homes?
I can think of two examples in which I've done this in my life. The first of which was old-time family friends went into their house, and I think I was just at the age where you start to get the idea that you can look on people's bookshelves, And I went on their bookshelf and I saw that they had all of the all the Shakespeares and a bunch of Sigmund Freud, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is a revelation of who I thought that these people were." And then I can think of another time in which I went over to someone's house for the very first time, and the mom had a bunch of Marquis de Sade on her bookshelf, and I was just also like,
back away.
Uh-oh.
Red flag right there, Zach. I can remember when I walked into one room, we used to live in that weird Everett Station lofts in Portland when it was all art galleries, but went into one person's gallery and all of their bookshelves, he was like, I don't really like books, but, and then he opened his door and it's just surrounded by board games like it was a board game shop. It was incredible. It was amazing, but man, it must have cost thousands of dollars.
This is probably an example of how I'm not a very fun person. Maybe the reason why I didn't like Philip Jose Farmer is because I cannot stand board games. I would so much rather go into someone's house and see a bookshelf full of just the worst books than I would any kind of board game collection.
I don't know. I love D&D, and also Tipples and Taverns. If listeners have not played Tipples and Taverns, highly recommend, by Ryan Sprinkle. What do you think, though? So, are these fair judgment calls? Everybody does it, I think. But do books really shape your personality? Do they really define your personality? If I have only the Marquis de Sade and I want to become a little softer, maybe a little bit less psychotic, could I go and get something a little nicer to read? And will that change my personality? If my bookshelf changes, will I change as a person?
Ooh, that, I was approaching it from the opposite end of, does the bookshelf shape you, but as how are you trying to shape yourself to other people?
Oh, I see. Like you've curated it.
Your curated collection of little signifiers on the shelf.
I looked up some different, because it's hard to give really specific examples about readers, I think. But I wanted to look at examples of authors and also point out my own terrible habits. My wife said I wasn't allowed to buy books anymore because they're too expensive and they take up too much room, except for my own books. So what does that say about someone when they only put their own books on a bookshelf? I assure you, it's nothing good. I wanted to. Oh, sorry. Do you have a response?
Yeah,
about my
it's like the equivalent
trip?
of the band on stage wearing their merch.
Yeah, that's 100%. Check out where we're at. We're pretty good. Yeah. Guns N' Roses is coming to Taiwan soon. I was surprised about.
Really?
Yes, it's called the 180 tour because they've taken a 180. Anyway, big stuff, Zach. I wanted to look at some authors and their personalities and the kinds of books that they write. Mostly authors that we've read before or some that we have referenced a lot before. The first one I think very interesting is Stephen King. We've talked about a few books, The Shining, we've talked about It, but he writes very scary stuff. But here's a quote from his wife, Tabitha. "Stephen is the least scary person I know." So he is not very scary. However, he writes scary books. We are not very fun and cannot handle very fun books. But take a look at this one too. Ernest Hemingway, extremely masculine, was a boxer. He had lots of cats. I don't know if you knew this, but he had lots of cats. Do you know what he called his cats? Hemingway called, which he had dozens of these cats, his purr factories.
Oh my God.
Ernest Hemingway. Yes.
He really is a fluff ball, isn't he? Deep down.
He's a fluff ball. Yes. So I thought that was very cute. Roald Dahl, as we know, we've read Matilda and I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory together, both masterpieces. He was a fighter ace, an extremely famous, well-accomplished pilot. He was a spy. He helped talks between Roosevelt and Churchill. If I just said the wrong president, I'm pretty sure Roosevelt and Churchill. Please fix that, YouTube. But apparently he could be a little bit difficult in personal relationships and he would lose his temper. He lost a daughter. I think he lost just his dad when he was really young. So hard life growing up, but wrote really delightful books. One more, Agatha Christie, who always wrote really tidy, clever murder mysteries. She disappeared for 11 days. Did you know this?
No.
And in 1926, she disappeared for 11 days, and it became a national manhunt. And then they just found her at a spa, and her car she abandoned it at a roadside. She abandoned her car, not anywhere near the spa, and then she just showed up there, and she never said what happened, and they just think it was a fugue state. She just
or dreamed up by a brilliant marketing department for a new book. Agatha Christie missing. Car abandoned on roadway, no signs of struggle.
Just enjoying her time at a spa with some finger sandwiches. So I thought these were very... Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought up Roald Dahl, actually, because when we were talking about fun authors, Roald Dahl was actually the first person who came to mind. Because like Philip Jose Farmer, he plays with language so much. But with Roald Dahl, he plays with language and I go... delightful. The man's a poet. With Philip Jose Farmer, he may be a poet, but I don't personally feel delighted.
I thought you were going to rhyme, Zach. He may be a poet, but I don't personally know it.
Yeah.
Yes, Roald Dahl is very fun when he does that playfulness, and maybe Jose Farmer is also really fun when he does the playfulness, but I just don't get it.
I don't know. People watching this video, what do you think? Is there merit to this idea? Have we missed the point of Philip Jose Farmer, or are we perhaps incapable of ever getting the point of Philip Jose Farmer?
Okay, Zach, we got a great comment, and I want to see what you think about it. It's very insightful. This is by Enigmatic Gale. It says, I've always thought that noir's core theme was maintaining personal integrity in a corrupt and chaotic role. I don't think it's incompatible with romantic themes, but I don't think it's a one-to-one. Now, this is in response to my bold and strange claim of hard-boiled noir is just men's romance, because I was really on a, Rebel Blue Ranch kick. What do you think?
Well,
I think this is, go ahead.
Well, it was the claim you prefaced with saying, Zach, I think we're going to get in trouble for saying this. And it ended up being, I think, one of our most shared clips of all time. Everyone seems to agree, or everyone seems to be tickled by the idea that, big trouble, that noir fiction is just romance for men. What do you think of, okay, so noir's core theme was maintaining personal integrity in a corrupt and chaotic world. I agree with Enigmatic Gale on this, that can be a theme of noir and crime fiction and, the private eye thing. But I think that by by taking an entire genre and tacking a meaning onto it and saying all of these genre books are about this one thing, it actually prevents you from reading each individual book for the message that it either inadvertently or advertently, intentionally is trying to deliver. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. I'm going to go on Enigmatic Gale's side here, though, Zach. I got some evidence that I want to show you. I think it's very interesting, this idea of being in a corrupt role while trying to be a good guy. For example, we didn't really see that as much with Sam Spade. We could talk about him as kind of a counter argument, but I think Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe is a really good case for this, because we noticed Marlowe is almost like a knight character. He is trying to do the right thing. He is trying to honor his agreements with his clients, and he will lose tons and tons of money. He will lose opportunities at monies just to honor that agreement. At money, just to honor that agreement. And I think Philip Marlowe understands that the world is corrupt and understands bad things will happen, but he still trusts people. He still tries to do the right thing, and even though he's expecting the worst, it still hurts him when he hits the worst, and he still wants to do the right thing. So I think there it 100% fits. For Mike Hammer, I think it fits too, even though he looks like an idiot and he just goes around punching things. He is very attached to his friends, and he is expecting, okay, I will make justice happen. He's like a vigilante, even though he's a private eye. I'm going to make justice happen because my friend deserves justice. And he truly believes in that. But all of the situations that he gets in are people tricking him and people who are pretending to be his friend who then betray him. But I think it does start to fall apart, and it leans back more toward what you were saying. If we look at Dashiell Hammett, Sam Spade, one of the first hard-boiled characters. Sam Spade, we didn't really know whether to trust him. We didn't really know if he was a good guy or a bad guy.
I think that the core distinction is, it's not necessarily about good guy, bad guy. It's in what way are they good? In what way are they bad? In what way are they motivated primarily by money? In what way are they primarily motivated by loyalty and friendship and a kind of allyship with the people who, they're trying to help? What are they willing to overlook and what are they not willing to overlook? I think that it's not even on a level of different detectives. Different characters have different meanings. I think that it's a matter of each book kind of sets up its own moral universe. And personal integrity in a corrupt and chaotic role, all of these books deal with issues of integrity, and all of them deal with corruption and chaos. That's fine. That's part of the genre. But I think that what we were specifically talking about when it comes to the romance angle is the role that love plays and desire plays, and a kind of either a longing for a long-term relationship or the lack of longing. I guess what I'm saying is there can be more to the detective novel than just the hat and the trench coat.
The hat and the trench coat. There's a candy hearts in store too for all noir fans out there. I think so. Love is always a big, well, not always, but it's a big part of noir, and often there's the femme fatale. So, you start to believe in this new relationship sparking up. Maybe you're a little bit skeptical, but it comes and stabs you in the back at the end. We've seen that in a lot of these noir books. I don't know why I'm bouncing around so much, Zach, but I noticed that when I was comparing it to romance is that feeling of I am in a corrupt world, but I'm trying to do the right thing, just like enigmatic Gale said. But I think there's a feeling in the romance books, especially the really good ones, like by Jane Austen, Northanger Abbey, and then in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, I think the people falling in love, there is a block, and that block is usually internal, especially in Rebel Blue Ranch, where it's, I don't deserve this, or this is not right because something has gone wrong in the past between us, and now we can't reconcile those differences. There's a feeling of, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing in both? And it is very much about keeping with that moral compass and trying to find it in a corrupt world. Now, is Rebel Blue Ranch a corrupt world? No, it's like the nicest world ever. But in noir, I feel like love is often either a trap or a test of the character's, ability to keep with that moral compass. And I think the characters in some of these romances treat love as the same way, or treat that relationship the same way. It's a trap because they don't want to be tricked into falling in love. They don't believe they deserve love. Or it's a test of that character too. Can they overcome this problem and find the true moral compass? So their world is not corrupt. They just are uncertain about it. Whereas in the noir, the world is corrupt, and it's good to stay uncertain about it, I think.
I guess I would just say that like both of these genres of books do seem to be both very, very concerned about how to choose the right partner. There's the classic romance trope of the protagonist having to choose between the guy who the reader knows is the right one for her, but the protagonist isn't quite convinced yet, versus the hot and flashy guy who is ultimately revealed to be an asshole. There's like part of the character arc is the discernment between who is the right and wrong partner. And I think that noir can often do the same thing in the sense of, most of the detective books we've read, the detective has had, I guess you could say, opportunities, has flings with multiple women throughout the book. But throughout the start to the finish of the book, we, the reader, come to recognize and who is the right lady for the detective.
So if you like Mike Hammer, read Sense and Sensibility.
Exactly. I want to hear from viewers, actually, because I don't know if detective novels and romance novels are the only genres that have this in common. I guess I've never really thought about it before. Are there other kinds of books that really match up to this idea of just being kind of like male-coded romance books that are one thing on the surface, but actually spend an inordinate amount of time actually thinking about what love is and what's the right way to love, and getting our protagonist into scuttled into a long-term monogamous relationship? Let us know down below in the comments.
Okay, Zach, I got a comment for you and I got a question for you. I want to really look at this closely. This is from Chris from Liminal Spaces. Again, probably my favorite thing on YouTube. He says, when we were doing the Dangerous Visions anthology, Chris says, I feel like the expectations Ellison put on his writers for this anthology to write something new and dangerous was so vague that many turned to shock while others turned to surrealism to try and hit the mark. And we're talking about Fritz Lieber and R.A. Lafferty in this comment. What do you think? This idea of some of these stories that either went way too far into surrealism to do Ellison's bidding, or went way too far into shock and horror. Did you feel that was often happening with the stories in this anthology?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason why most people don't finish Dangerous Visions, is because it simply goes way too far, way too early. And in fact, it really mellows out once you get past the 1/3 point of the book. But the series is front loaded with the most vile things you've ever read in your life. I really want to point out here the two key words that he brought up, which are shock and surrealism, because I think that surrealism and shock have really always gone hand in hand. Like when you think of
Hmm.
That film, was that by Salvador Dali, and Illusion Dog, where they have the eyeball that they slice with the razor blade. It's like it's not a, through the magic of film, it looks like an actual human's eyeball, but it's not. But it seems like there's been a real long-term obsession for the past 100 years for violence, like as a kind of high art. And um, I don't get it. I'll be honest with you. I don't get it.
I got it in some of the stories. For example, there's the one that is the Mali system, where we are subjected to really graphic depictions of terrible crimes. But the point is, that's what these criminals are reliving because of this new science fiction idea of a penal colony where people have to relive what they did, and it will eventually cure them. That's the idea, but of course it doesn't work. In the other one, too, by Ellison, that is about Jack the Ripper, when he explained it, when I read it, I thought, oh, why did I have to read that? But when he explained it, he said, look, I'm trying to depict a world where violence like this won't even be taken seriously, where it will just flow by and people will get tired of it and bored, or they'll even ask for something more violent just to be entertained. At the end of that story, they just, snap their fingers and disappear Jack the Ripper. And they're like, well, we don't really care that you've done all this. It's just for a little bit of our entertainment. So I get why they're doing it. There's a point, and it's a science fiction point. But
is there? I mean, I don't know. Is it? I guess what I'm stuck on, and maybe you can help me, is does this like long history of violence or like surreal violence in art, is it for the purpose of making there be less violence in the world, or is it for the purpose of shocking the viewer or the reader into some kind of higher state of knowledge? Like, how do you personally square away what authors like these are trying to do?
As far as what Ellison is explaining, and as far as what the author of Mali System was explaining, is yes, it's trying to deter violence because it's a fear of what the future will look like if violence is still, I don't know, obsessed over. If we're still obsessed with violence, how bad will it really get? So I think that that's their intention, and it's repulsive. I mean, it wasn't attractive to me at all. I didn't feel like, yeah, violence is awesome after reading this. It really made me feel disgusted. So I think for some readers, it's going to be pretty effective to deter them from thinking violence is cool, because it was graphic, it was disgusting, it was not attractive in any way, like a video game might be. But do you think, I mean, is that a fake claim? Is that just them trying to cover their ass when really it is about the shock, trying to ring people in, say, look, I've really written something shocking. It's called Dangerous Visions for a reason. Is it these dangers are cool? Let me show you this cool thing. Or is it, look, these are dangerous because the future is dangerous. And if we don't do something, it will be like this. It will be as bad as this.
From what you're saying, it's almost as if they're trying to shock people into remembering that they have an innate moral compass or something. Like, oh, I forgot that I automatically bristle against depictions of violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's this sense in which by shocking people, what we're doing is we're trying to keep them from like collectively as a society getting to these far future worlds in which violence is normalized or regularized or used as a system of punishment. I get it. And yet, all of my experience in this life tells me that if you show people violence or, whatever else, all you end up actually doing is desensitizing them towards violence, which would seem to make it easier for violence to be enacted into this world. I don't know. I'm conflicted on it. I think I'm conflicted, Bob.
I still wonder, though, if it's part of the intention of Dangerous Visions, where it is breaking away from Golden Age fiction, where we have the intellectual, the scientist who can solve everything. It's Golden Age. Everything is going to be okay. And then Ellison trying to say, no, we don't want that anymore. That's not the truth. We are going to depict the truth, and that these are these dangerous visions. This is the new wave where science fiction is showing what reality really looks like or what it could become. I wonder if it's a very deliberate, we are jettisoning ourselves from golden age, or we're jettisoning golden age and letting it drift away so the new wave can pilot forward.
I think you're really onto something there. I also wonder if there might be competing ideas of what the historical, like the thrust of history might be, for Asimov. And I haven't read every Asimov, so I can't say if this is universal, but the vibe I certainly get is that even though there's challenges in the future is always going to be better than the present. It's going to be way cooler. We're going to have robots. We're going to live on Mars, all these wonderful things. Whereas for Ellison and the people who Ellison has gathered here, the future could be very, very, very bad. And so it's this idea of a kind of skepticism that things are always getting better. So therefore, maybe we need to shock people and get them to recognize that maybe things aren't going the way we want them to. I don't know, Bob. I think that I'm not 100% happy. I feel like I haven't really settled this one. There might be something we just can't see or haven't seen. So if anyone's watching this and they have any ideas, let us know, because this is a head scratcher.
Okay, Zach, comment for you. This is in response to, again, a story from Dangerous Visions. The story is Encounter with a Hick by Jonathan Brand. And we have a great comment by Pete Hill 7280, who said, and this is in response to talking about, okay, is there a problem between religion and science fiction? Do they ever go hand in hand? And asking for recommendations. So Pete Hill says, problem isn't science fiction itself inherently, but rather the secular hyper-rationalism of some sci-fi authors. The sneering at religion chiefly comes from such a mindset, one born of Whig history more than anything else. This is talking about H.G. Wells. And it is one just as ignorant as that of the religious fanatic. The golden age of science fiction, with Asimov and other similar people ruling the roost, was this mentality at its worst, with the assumption that science and technology would conquer all and that religion is dead, stupid, backward, a thing of the past. What do you think of this? What's going on with Asimov here?
Yeah, I think it's a great open question of did the genre start off with a kind of hyper-rational bent? And I think I need to distinguish because this commenter brought up like H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells' stuff is very fantastical, but it's not really that kind of fantasy element that I think we were talking about in the thrust of it. We were talking about the idea of speculative writing always being openly hostile to religious ideas or religious themes or spiritual ideas or spiritual themes. We just seem to be living in this cold, dead material universe, and every single science fiction book, well, at least in the early years.
There are some older ones, though, too, like Olaf Stapledon's Star Maker, where a guy walks out one day and just looks up into the stars and then starts astral projecting, or just really projecting through the stars, traveling through the universe. So I think there is some old stuff that maybe gets a little bit lost or is a little bit hidden that is still spiritual. When we met with the Huguenots, they had that great point about contact, about the Jodie Foster character having a real experience that could not be verified by science, but thinking it was kind of coming in contact with someone in the next world, her father, or maybe even God.
I think it might be up for debate on just how much of an effect that these early SF writers had in terms of setting the stage for science fiction, but it seems pretty clear that by the 1960s, definitely by the time The Dangerous Visions is being written, writers are starting to utilize religious or spiritual themes in their work. Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, gets into this idea that humanity is evolving to its next telekinetic level, joining some great cosmic intelligence in the universe, this kind of cosmic alien it's scientific, it's rational, and yet it's playing with ideas of like ESP and souls even, certainly ideas of the spirit and higher consciousness. I guess what I'm saying is science fiction doesn't seem to be immune to the acid tab munching hippies of the 60s and 70s.
So jumping away from the 60s and 70s, though, This movie, I think it was pretty popular in the States. It was very popular in Taiwan, and it's still played in a lot of theaters here, and lots of kids are named after Murphy. Interstellar, which is, very scientific, but it also feels a little bit soft or a little bit sentimental in a similar kind of way, talking like Olaf Stapleton, looking and thinking, okay, what does it take for the soul to go through outer space? Are we star stuff? There's a curiosity in science that seems similar to a curiosity in another life or in something spiritual. What do you think about maybe new movies kind of leaning back towards this spiritual side of science fiction?
That's a really good point, bringing up film. I mean, you know, it's hard. I'm really struggling to think of other SF movies that really fall in line with this. But for me, I think that the kind of template for this was 2001: A Space Odyssey, also an Arthur C. Clarke adaptation. I think that where
Collaboration.
we landed on while talking through this in the episode, and I think where we're still at, is that we both want to read and watch more SF that deals with things like this. It's more speculative about these kinds of things, and isn't just kind of bound up in not only just like a material worldview, but also as was the case with the story we read, a like openly hostile or mocking or like gleefully blasphemous perspective in science fiction. Which, for me, the problem isn't that it's blasphemous; it's that like gleeful blasphemy is just kind of boring for me. So I want something that allows me to sit and wonder. I love the questions and comments that have been coming in. Bob, you and I spend a lot of time actually discussing these questions off camera. And I feel like what we're doing right now is a great way to actually put those conversations online and seeing if we could further that conversation more and actually come to some sensible and solid responses and sensible and solid answers about some of this stuff. So yeah, let's keep this up. Talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later, Zach.